Brainstorm. What are some of the things that maybe a couple of you are doing that you think is really working with teens for interactive activities, in or out of the classroom? Yes, ma'am? An intersection observation. Right, I didn't realize nobody uses their turn signals and they're on their phone with the dog jumping across the lap and field of vision and they're running into the white lines. And yeah, that's a real eye-opener. So something to think about for fall planning is exactly that. And we have a bunch of free resources. Again, you can email me and I'll send them to you, but free surveys. We actually have our student leadership groups go out and take surveys at homecoming. You know the big game that we all go to as parents too. We go to the homecoming game. How many people were not buckled when they entered your school parking lot? How many were on the phone? How many were distracted doing whatever they were doing, but not paying attention when they came into your parking lot? And then your student leaders have a table set up at halftime. At halftime, that same announcer that you've been listening to the whole game, that we all know that voice, right, comes back on. You have yourself or your student leader or all of the above, law enforcement, whoever's standing down there. You do this in less than 2 minutes. Hey, folks, 246 of you were not buckled up when you came to your parking lot. We want to remind you, we want to keep XYZ community safe. Do you realize that wearing your seatbelt can say, however you want to do it. You think of your talking points, this can be done in 2 minutes. This has been very, very effective. And so just raising awareness. Oh, gee, I never thought about that. Yeah, I was on the phone when I pulled into the school parking lot. So think about ways that you can incorporate the messaging right into events that already happen in your community. Any other events that you do or things that you do that you think are really high impact that you could share with others? Say that again. Alive at 25? So Alive at 25. Is that, in Idaho, is that mostly court ordered, or is it something that is taking place as an elective? Both. Okay. So Alive at 25 is a good program. In many places, though, it's only court ordered. And that in of itself becomes a problem, right? So thinking through how you can incorporate some of that messaging into your classrooms. If you're already doing it elsewhere, how can you incorporate that back into your classroom? Anything else that you're doing in your communities? How do you reach teens outside of the classroom?
You know, for seniors, they do all that every 15 minutes. I mean, that's more of
the mock track. Yep. But you can do a similar thing to get attention. You can get awareness. There's a lot of what they call reality rides and things like that going around. I don't know if that's made it here yet, but a lot of these different stage scenes of what they look like, which is mock crash or mock suicide, whatever it might be. They're awareness getters versus education. But if you get them there, and you're raising awareness, the next step is to educate. So look at those as opportunities to get in there and provide education. Car shows are a great one. People are there because they care about cars and they're interesting, right? Being able to have a little table and to talk about the importance of having those GDL handouts. Thinking about how you can educate people. Because one of the things that we know is for all of us out there, we think we're better than we are. And as adults, we're much worse. I actually have more confidence in young people to change their driving attitudes and behaviors than I do people our age. I really do. It's what we did with seatbelts, guys. And we still need to do with seatbelts, right? It's still an uphill battle. Okay, so think of community events, your farmers markets, your county fairs. All these are good opportunities where kids and parents are going to be together. So I want you to think about how you can incorporate some of this different stuff. Social media. How many of you are using social media? Yeah. Okay. So social media, it's where the kids are at. It's where they're talking. We're not that comfortable with it. We didn't necessarily grow up with social media. I get it. Look, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have all these Tumblr, we have them all. I will tell you, I have teens and college kids run our accounts because it's not what I do. I'm not good at it. I don't know what they want to hear, I talk to them about message, but our kids run this for us. This is a very effective way to reach teens. And Facebook is actually a very effective way to reach parents. So think about how you could share a story. This codified story, I'm not going to show it to you for time. This is 5 minutes. Martha Tesmer, Donovan's mom. This is set up in what we call, it's set up in a format that you can share it via Facebook. So you can actually take this story and send it out to all your families. You could do it, hey, in honor of National Teen Driver Safety Week, I want to remind all of us the importance. She has 5 minutes of how she does how she, if she was standing up here, would talk about her son's loss. She opens her actual photo books. She shows you pictures of her son. She talks about how life doesn't always have do-overs. That's very emotional and engaging to parents. Get them engaged so they want to hear what you have to say next. So you can think about how to do that. Contest. We talked about Create Real Impact. With the Create Real Impact contest, this is an opportunity for you to get your kids involved in project-based learning. So if you are an art teacher and you want to get your kids involved, give them this project where they create a message that would work on t-shirts or posters. Get them to start doing the research to figure out what works. What are the distractions? If you're an English teacher, I mentioned that. Talk to you're not an English teacher, but you have English teachers in your school. Talk to your English teacher about that sophomore lesson plan when they have to write that persuasive writing essay. How could they incorporate some of these ideas around traffic safety? The challenge is we look at traffic safety as just being another class. It's the #1 killer of young people in America. It is a public health crisis. This is much more than just another class they need to take. We have got to keep our kids alive. If you work with families that have lost their children, you understand that every one of them will say, I did not think this could happen to us, so let's prevent it from happening by involving them in being part of the solution, having parents talk to each other. I mentioned that we have multiple materials. I have Hmong. I do not have African. We could work on that. But hearing impaired, that's a great population. Understand that they're driving on the roads and they're not getting a lot of the same materials and awareness. So understand that we have that. So looking at, we talked about a little bit about this in communities, how you can collaborate your efforts. Working with your first responders is a great way to do that. You need to have uniform messaging. If you're all giving something similar, the message is identical even if you're saying it in a different way, the kids will get it. If you're all telling them totally different things, then they're not hearing the same message. So think about how you can work with your first responders, your EMTs, your law enforcement, your health professionals. Our trauma injury prevention people see the worst of the worst. Physical therapy, right? They see people like Vicki. They're helping people like Vicki. Think about how you incorporate this into the messaging. You could get the GDL Made Simple and hand it to any hospital. We have large hospitals using the GDL Made Simple, and it's rotating through it. If you have a great pediatrician in your community, have them do a teen corner, okay? So a lot of times when you become a teen, you don't want to go to the little kids doctor anymore, but those of us as parents really like our pediatricians because we know them and we trust them and they've known our family, right? And so the kid's dreading going to the little kid's doctor. Have your pediatricians develop a teen corner. Have them loop one of those 5-minute affected family member videos while they're sitting there. And if you had your kids get their wisdom teeth out lately and you go into the dentist and they don't even come in the room sometimes now, you have to watch like a 3-minute video or a 5-minute video alone in the room with your kid right before surgery of all the things that could happen. Well, how about doing the same thing? If you're going to sit there and wait for a doctor, instead of grabbing the magazine that's 2 years old, let's have something that's effective to get that message across. Our pediatricians have been a great resource for us in many communities across the United States. So think about how you can do that. And educating parents. So here we go. You ready? Parent-teen workshops. How do you get parents there? Does anybody have a brilliant way that you get your parents there?
Food.
Food. Free food. Works for me. What else? They don't get their permit if they come, which if they don't come. So, well, I'm going to come in and I'm dreading it, and while I'm here, what do I sign so now I can leave, right? What else? You ask them. What's the most important thing in most parents' lives? Their child. Hit them emotionally. Think about talking to them instead of, you have to do this. You have the opportunity to come and learn how to keep your kids safe and stop the #1 killer of young people in America. So there are a lot of ways. Talk to your local gas stations, movie theaters, Wincos, whatever you have. Get $50 gift cards to give away that night. Do any of your schools require parking passes to park on campus? Yeah, I figure that's going to be a tough one here because you have plenty of room. They do? Okay, tell me this. We have schools that require, before you can get a parking pass to park on campus, you must attend a parent-teen workshop, 1 hour. And every single parent grumbles on the way in there, like they had 1,000 other things to do that night. And I empathize with that because I'm one of those parents that has 1,000 other things to do that night. But when they leave there, and we actually do a pre-post test survey, when they leave there, they're thanking us because they realize they learned a lot of information they didn't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. And so figuring out how to educate them and providing them free information. Limited seating, believe it or not, works. Okay, so parking passes. The other thing to think about if you have kids that are on graduated driver's licensing, and you can have one passenger in your car, is that correct, under GDL in the intermediate stage, unless it's immediate family? Because you all know it's much safer to drive your kids around, right? And your brother and sister, you've all been on those road trips with how well your kids get along in the car. So clearly they do it when you're not there, right? Think about talking to parents like that. How well do your kids get along at the dinner table? Why would you think they're going to get along any better behind the wheel? Right? If they can't agree on a radio station in the house, how are they going to do it when they're in the car? But PTOs and PTSAs and things like that, do you work with your parent-teen organizations? Let them be your champions. Not every high school is going to have them, but almost every high school has some type of advisory board or parent board that's involved. The booster club, whatever it might be. Educate them and allow them to become part of your champions. Look for where your champions are in your community. They exist. I'm amazed at how a very involved parent, once they get the message, will go home and talk to it. I had, about 3 years ago, I did a presentation at a PTA, and I got a call a couple months later from this parent. She said, hey, I wanted to thank you. I was at your presentation. That's great. And she said, no, I wanted to tell you what I did. You started giving me those statistics, and I went home, and I live in a cul-de-sac, and I thought about, based on those statistics, every one of our homes had a teen in the house at that point. And I thought about one of those teens statistically may not make it. Or one of those teens might be seriously injured. And I thought, that's just not acceptable. She said, and I'm an attorney and I don't have a lot of time. I said, okay. She said, so you know what I did? I said, what'd you do? She said, I had a barbecue at my house. We do that in our neighborhood every so often. And I invited all the parents and the kids over, and I showed a 5-minute video. I showed Amanda's clip. And I want you to know, as the parents in that room, we then brought our kids back in. We made a pact. We were going to watch each other's kids, and our kids were going to understand that if they caught driving stupid or not wearing their seatbelt, this is what would happen. So getting parents to understand and get engaged is critical, but it's not as bad as you think it is. It's just a matter of figuring out what works in your communities. Networking with other parents is huge. I want to point out driveathome.org. It's not my website. It's the National Safety Council's website. It's new this year. And they have a bunch of free resources that are specific to parents. They're not for teens, but they're for parents. So if you're interested in doing the parent-teen contracts, if you're interested in looking at PSAs for parents, you can get free resources from them. And anytime you need information from National Safety Council, which they are actually the ones that run the Alive at 25 program as well, they have some good material. Feel free to contact them, ask them for it, or contact me. I have a good relationship. We'll get you some free stuff. Hunter's story. So if you can't figure out some of the other ways to engage parents, can I tell you that if you see Hunter's story and you show that in that 6 minutes, you will get parents to think differently. So I'd like to show you Hunter's story, and I want you to think about engaging parents in 6 minutes with this story.
Growing up, he was just very affectionate, very, very kind and gentle soul.
He was an amazing kid. He was well behaved.
Hunter was the kind of kid that like a lot of people would want to be like.
We absolutely love spending time with our family.
Our family did everything together. We vacationed together, we ate together, we played together. I mean, my brothers were my best friends growing up. Always outdoors, always looking for something fun to do.
He brought the adventure out in me.
We call it the Huck Van life, you know, where you just play on the river, play in the wilderness all summer long.
Go camp up by the falls, go to the lake. Pretty much anything and everything outdoors.
You could find the little things and turn it into some kind of adventurous activity.
He was doing backflips off of stuff before I was willing to jump off of that same rock or boat.
He was always telling me he wanted to be a rally driver in Australia, and he wanted to have his own little restaurant called Hunters, you know.
To make you crack up at any time, you never knew what to expect from him, really.
We would lock each other out of the house, and one time I had to get ready for work and I was almost late. So I actually had to pop off my screen to my house and pull him out of the window so that I could get in. But we were doing that stuff all the time.
My fondest memory of Hunter was actually when we were leaving to go to basic training. And he came up to me and he wrapped his arms around me, he gave the biggest hug. And he said, I love you.
told him, you know what, I'll see you right when you come back, you know? And I never got to see him.
On August 9, 2009, Troy and I and Kylie and her husband were away at a family wedding. We were driving home, and my cell phone rang, and it was our son Jaden. And he said, "Mom, somebody here needs to talk to you."
And it was my captain at work, and he told me that Hunter had been in an accident. And I asked him, where was he? And he said he was at the corners.
I remember Troy telling me that there had been an accident and that Hunter didn't make it. And the first thought that went through my head is, how could this be? This has to be this joke. This couldn't have happened.
I broke down right away.
I didn't want to believe it.
Hunter was a passenger in a car that was driven by a 17-year-old boy who had his provisional license for a very short time. They were on a windy mountain road, and as teenage boys do, they were egging him on to drift around a corner. So he tried to drift around a corner, lost control.
And spun around and hit a tree, unfortunately right on the passenger side, right in Hunter's seat. And he was killed instantly.
And everybody else pretty much walked away.
I found out shortly after that the driver was messing around. It was his fault that my brother's not here anymore. But he's not a bad kid. He just was distracted. He got distracted by the other kids in the car. He wanted to have some fun. He wanted to be the cool older brother. And that, unfortunately, ended in a tragedy.
Just having your best friend just gone, just taken from you. You'll never get used to that.
One thing we never thought to talk to Hunter about was being a good passenger.
How to act appropriately and not distract the driver.
He was in 8th grade. His friends weren't even driving. There was no reason for me to think that he would be in a car with a provisional license.
He would tell me to go faster, go around, try to drift the car around the corner, and we would laugh, and we would drive on. Never thought that he would be doing that to a provisional driver, and the provisional driver would actually do it.
That's the hardest for me with my son, Thane. It's really hard to raise him with the memory and the love of Hunter that I have. And it makes me proud that he can point out Uncle Scooby in pictures, and I've made books of him.
I think about it all the time what it would be if he was still here.
I really did.
We've always been with each other through everything. So to not have Hunter there was very hard for us because everything that we've been through in life, we were always all there together.
There's definitely that missing link that will never be filled.
There's this big empty space that has a big chunk of my heart that's not there anymore.
Parents need to realize how lives can change if they don't follow the laws of the provisional license. Had that father not made that decision that day, my son would still be here.
I see such a simple choice that took my brother's life. Makes you realize why those rules were in place.
You know, as parents, sometimes it's tough to tell your kids no. It's a lot easier to have your child mad at you for not allowing them to drive friends than it is to not have them here. My own provisional driving experience was really based on my parents. We never allowed our other son to drive friends when he had his provisional license. So, parents really need to step up and teach their children how to be good passengers and talk to them about that.
You cannot ever replace Hunter. You will never be able to.
Nothing ever prepares you for the death of a child.
There's nothing to fix the loss of a child. Nothing at all.
So in 6 minutes, you can get parents' attention. In 6 minutes, you engage them, so you educate them, and you get their buy-in, and then you're not fighting an uphill battle. To get started, go to our website, impactteendrivers.org, click on resources, look at the laundry list of resources beyond the educational kits we just gave you. Feel free to email me. Stories behind the story in each one of these. Enjoy your conference. Thank you for what you do. Thank you.